We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Everybody, welcome to Meanwhile Back at the Lab with Paximus. I really hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, whichever part of the day it is for you. I'm really happy that you guys are here to hang out with me and my special guest, Noire, every day. If you haven't done so already, I would love for you to hit that like button and subscribe. But also, please do me a huge favor. Go to the description below. Check out the information there. For Noire every day, we have all her information for her Discord, where you can even donate, buy her a cup of Java, things like that. And then, of course, please go and subscribe to her channel. I'm really excited to have this conversation with Noire every day. I think it was, let's see, it had to be a few months ago where I actually found out about Noire through a person who was going, I think, in between our live streams, and I found out about Noire, and then Laura Byrne, I think, was in the mix somehow, and then we were talking about Crash, and so it became this little group of people that I was starting to get familiar with. So it was around the same time that I was starting to get to know Laura Byrne, I think, and Laura reached out to me first. Really, that's actually how this whole podcast started, is because she decided to reach out and be a good neighbor, So that was kind of nice to have that ability to kind of have another conversation with another study streamer and just talk about stuff, So I'm really excited for this conversation we're about to have with Noire every day. I just want to acknowledge the people in the chat. Artsy Adventures, thank you so much for being here. And Study with Sabrina, who is another Study with Me streamer. If you haven't done so already, please go and check her stuff out as well. And then Crash Hermit, who's another Study with Me streamer. And from what I understand as well, Pad Mini, who, these guys are friends of mine and who are moderators here. So I want to thank each moderator for being here. I know Aditya is also here, and Noire every day, of course, is a Study with Me streamer. So I'm really excited, guys, to have this just laid back conversation, right? It's just to get to know Noir every day and just to kind of get to know like who she is, what she's all about, and things like that. So, without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring in Noir every day. Hey, Noir, how's it? Or actually, and if you don't mind me saying, your name is Miriam. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, that's my fault. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so yes, indeed. My name is Miriam, but since my channel is called Noir Every Day, I allow everybody to call me Noir.
Which so I mean which do you prefer? I don't know which you have a preference for.
I personally prefer Noir,
Okay.
just because of like the way I found the name of the
Yeah.
channel.
Mhm.
The channel has the same name as my podcast,
Mm.
and Noir every day basically means being, well, for me,
Mhm.
it literally means being black every day.
Mhm.
But I wanted to show I guess my own identity through the
Yeah.
name. So
Mhm.
instead of saying black every day, I put noir every day, and noir is literally black in French.
Mhm.
It's the adjective in the female gender.
Ah, I
And in
see.
French,
Okay.
to call a black person, we don't say literally black person, we just say black. And
Mhm.
depending on the gender of the person, we add a E to it or not. So when I
Oh,
say noir in
noir.
French,
Okay.
yeah, I can literally say that literally means a black woman, a black girl.
Mm.
So my podcast talks about the black girl experience in Belgium. So I decided
Interesting.
to say noir with an E at
Mhm.
the end every day.
Interesting. So do you
And
do
since I study every day also on this
right.
channel, I decided to take the name over
Oh
here.
no, that's great. Do you like? Is there bearing any like setbacks here? But is there any expectation of people when they call you Noir? Like the accent and everything. Are you okay with it not being on point?
Um, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Cause luckily I it's weird to say, like, I've never been to America or England for that matter,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty up to date with American culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I've been speaking English
Mm-hmm.
since I was 9 or 10 years old.
Mm.
Funny story, I learned English by accidentally discovering Nicki Minaj on
Oh wow.
YouTube. Yes, I know. It's really a weird story. Um Long story short, I was looking for a Honey Pops commercial song on YouTube,
Uh-huh.
like back in the days. It was my first time actually knowing that YouTube existed,
Mm-hmm.
and they had recommendations at that time, I think, or some form of recommendations for
Mm-hmm.
of other videos, and I found her video featuring Will I Am,
Yeah.
called "Check It Out."
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I checked the video out. And when I saw Nicki Minaj, I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
my mind was blown. I was like, who is this woman? And like in Belgium, there's not a lot of representation for us black people. So we tend to
Mm.
always go look outside of our country.
Right.
And so when I found Nicki, I kind of recognized my inner child, even though I was already a child.
Mm-hmm.
But the way like society made me behave, I already couldn't be myself once I left the house.
Mm.
And when listening to Nikki, with all her voices in her head and stuff, I was just like, yo, this is all literally me being conflicted with like my inner child
Mm.
and my grown up
Right.
self. And I started, like they call it nowadays, stan her back in the days, but
Mm-hmm.
like social media wasn't really a thing. So all I did was learn all the songs that I could find of her by heart.
Right.
And in for I think 3 or 5 months, I started speaking American English. So I got you. Well, I'm telling this
Right.
story because I got used to the way Americans pronounce stuff.
With our accent and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I already was prepared. Like even when I was like in the process of making my podcast and finding the name of my podcast, I was there like, if I use black, it's gonna be easier for the Americans, but I wanna put
Right.
noir in it. And even when I was thinking, I already I didn't say noir as we say it in French,
Mm,
but I immediately like put the English version of noir, the English pronunciation of it. So
exactly.
I don't mind people calling noir. Actually, I like it, and I'm really happy when people like immediately say noir from the first for the first
Okay. Very
shot.
cool.
So noir is perfect, you guys.
Nice. Nice. I love that. So, um, and it's actually a good thing that I put Noir every day. um,
Yes.
but yeah, and I think just even looking at the chat. By the way, guys, for those of you who are tuning in just now, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us for a little bit, taking some time out of your day to hang out with us. And I just also want to say that there is there is a comment that Aditya made, and he was saying your English sounds really great. And to be honest, I was like, she's not from Belgium.
A lot
I
of
didn't hear any
people
accent
don't
or
believe me.
I wasn't
I
like
once
yeah.
I once I don't remember what it was, but I encountered an American tourist here in Belgium,
Uh-huh.
and he happened to ask for directions, and so I said like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like I think he wanted to go to the Atomium, which is kind of like the how you call it, the main tourist attraction here in
Yeah.
Belgium.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, fine, of course. If you want, I can even go with you to there, like to the Atomium.
Right.
And I explained it to him and stuff like that. And he said, like, are you an expat or something? And I said, no, I'm Belgian. I'm born and raised here. And he didn't believe me. Like he really thought I was lying. And I've had that multiple times. People don't believe me because I
Right.
actually just have an American accent. The funny thing is I have like a whole repertoire of accents
I
that I
believe it.
actually that I work on.
Uh-huh.
And in that repertoire,
Uh-huh.
I do not have a quote unquote Belgian accent. Like I can't put on a Belgian accent. So if you
That's
go
crazy.
to like a real Belgian person, well,
Right.
I'm not saying I'm fake, but if you go to a Belgian person who learned English later on in life, they'll have like a really, I don't like the accent. They have like a really weird accent.
Mm,
And I cannot use or even pronounce stuff the way they do it because I've
right.
been used to pronounce stuff correctly, either the American way or the British way.
Right.
It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like dancing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can dance on the beat, but it's really hard for me. Like I have to force my brain to dance off beat.
Yeah.
That's something I really cannot naturally do.
Right.
Like it's literally the same with the language.
Well, and I figure like so I'm kind of curious now. How many languages are you fluent in? Um, so one is you were saying just French, right? But
Hmm.
and then obviously English. But are you fluent in another language?
Yes, actually, this is gonna be hard to explain. So I grew up speaking French with my parents because they
Mm,
don't speak the language I speak to go to school.
mm,
Because in Belgium we have three national languages:
mm-hmm.
French, Flemish, which is like a dialect of Dutch,
Uh
and then
huh.
German. I live
Ah.
in Flanders, so in the Flemish region,
Uh
and
huh.
there I went to school in Flemish. So at school, I would learn Flemish with some
Mm,
of my siblings. I'd be speaking Flemish, but then the rest of my family, I'd be speaking French. So from ever since I've been little, I've always spoken or have been in like a whole immersion of in like a bilingual immersion
mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been bilingual from birth, from the memories that I have till around 8, 9
Mm-hmm.
years old. There, I discovered Nicki Minaj, and then I started
Right.
speaking English. Um, and then in my teenage years, I started kind of being rebellious, and I wanted to learn my native tongue, which is Lingala, because I'm Congolese,
Mm-hmm.
both parent, mom and dad.
Mm,
So at church, I would force myself to like listen to the sermons in Lingala because the main preacher would speak in French and Lingala, and then you'd have somebody like translate it. I
mm-hmm.
would force myself to like really listen and be like immersed in the whole Lingala experience, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so in I would say around 14, 15 years old, I
Mm-hmm.
was able to speak four languages then. So French, Flemish, English, and Lingala.
Mm-hmm.
Then at school, I was studying sciences with languages as an option. So I had French, Flemish, English, and German. And so at school, I learned German.
Mm-hmm.
And during my teenage years, there was a time where I was like, I would say almost fluent in Korean, but like now I've lost it because
What?
I don't practice it
That's like one
anymore.
of the hardest languages to learn.
It's funny. I really thought I also thought that like Korean was hard.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it was because I had a lot of time, so I was able to like really consume a lot of Korean content at the time,
Mm.
and also like yeah, I had time on my hand
Mm-hmm.
because what does a teenager have to do besides going to school, right? Um, and like also, I forgot to mention in the
Mm-hmm.
story of how I discovered Nicki Minaj,
Mm-hmm.
I also discovered K-pop at the age of 9.
Oh
So
wow.
I had been listening to like Korean music
Right.
from the age of 9 till now. I
Uh-huh.
don't consume it a lot anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
through the Korean music, through the Korean music, watching Korean news channels,
Mm-hmm.
reading Korean newspapers and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Also the K dramas and stuff like that. I was
Mm-hmm.
able to actually have some kind of I guess basic Korean, not basic, I would say intermediate Korean. Like
Yeah.
I was able to watch the news and I
Mm-hmm.
would understand 60-70% of it. So, how many languages do I speak? I would say fluently, I would say five.
Mm-hmm.
So, French, Flemish. Oh, wait, let me do it from the best, like the language where I'm most fluent in to
Mm-hmm.
least fluent.
Okay.
So, it's going to be English,
Mm-hmm.
French,
Mm-hmm.
Flemish, then Lingala,
Mm-hmm.
and then German. So, I would say I'm fluent in five languages and I'm passively fluent in Korean.
Mm.
So let's just say five language and a half.
Yeah. So, I mean, does that I don't know if you know much about the term polyglot, but does that kind of
That
dictate the
would
fact that
yeah.
because you know multiple languages? So I'm kind of curious though behind that. What made you during? I mean, like you said, you were a teenager, and what better thing to do when you're bored and you have nothing to do, right? But like, I mean, what was the turning point for you where you were like, I need to know. Like I need to know. Do you know the why behind it, or was it just kind of like, no, I just kind of learned it as I went?
Unconsciously, I think it was me seeing my parents um in Belgium right now. If you want to get just any kind of job, you have to be bilingual, so
Mm,
French and Flemish. My parents they don't speak Flemish, but luckily the time they came here to Belgium,
mm-hmm,
it wasn't a requirement to be flat to be bilingual, you know.
mm,
And I noticed also the globalization with the introduction of technology to
mm,
us. And I said, a lot. Well, my dad, let's just say, he's a un uh how do I call it? He was so smart that he had a lot of knowledge on history, and I would kind
mm.
of even say that he's um I think an anthropologist, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew how to analyze the state of the world,
Mm,
like job wise.
mm-hmm,
And he would always say, there's way more foreigners coming to work where I am
mm,
working. Like he was a doctor, so he told me that like a lot of foreigners were coming in. And with foreigners I mean people who aren't Belgian, like not just non-white people, but like just Belgian non-Belgian people.
uh-huh,
And I said like, oh, that's interesting, but do they like speak the languages that are the national languages from Belgium? And he said they just tend to speak one national language, either Flemish or French. German, not really, because there's the German community is not that big over here.
mm,
And then they would speak an internationally well-known language,
mm,
either Mandarin, Japanese, English, German. Well, yeah, German. And I said like these are languages that I either have been exposed to,
mm-hmm,
am currently exposed to, or am currently starting to learn. So I
mm-hmm,
said, oh, I already knew at the time that I was interested in medical sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to be a doctor, but I was interested in medical sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And all the seminars my dad would go to, they were never here in Belgium. They were always outside of Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And when I he came back, I would always collect like his those tickets that they give you with like your name on it and where you're from and what
Oh, okay.
country of company you're representing. He would always give them to me.
Mm-hmm.
And those tickets, like I still have them in a box, and those tickets were always in French, English, or German. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, let me learn those languages, since
Wow.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be having a career in this field, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
medical or paramedical field. I'm definitely gonna do something in there. So
Mm-hmm.
I started learning. Well, I accidentally already spoke English, and then at school I said, you know what? Let me the way our school system works. Back in the days, now it completely changed. But when I went to high school, you had like three main options. It
Mm-hmm.
was either science, economy, or social sciences.
Okay.
Yeah, social sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And then in science, I picked science. You could either choose as options languages or math. I already had 4 to 5 hours of math per week, and I said I don't need any more, so I'm just going to take the languages. And in the package of languages that I had, there was French, so I
Mm-hmm.
was bettering my French. There was Flemish because I go to school in Flemish, English, German, and then in my last 2 years there was some Spanish. Oh yeah, yo hablo un
Oh,
poco español.
what the?
Yes, yes, yes. I forgot that to say that.
Nah, see, you can't
Yes,
just drop
indeed.
that. Like, I
So
was
that
not.
would make seven
Spanish was
languages.
not even in the mix, and you're like, yeah, puedo hablar en español un poco, and I was like, what the? That's
Yes,
crazy.
yes, 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 yes.
Wow, that's quite impressive. That's
So
quite
that would make
impressive.
seven languages now, I think. Yeah.
So
French.
now I'm kind
Mhm.
of curious, and we're gonna get to more of like the study questions in just a moment. But like I'm kind of
Mhm.
curious because you had to drop the Spanish, and I was like, okay, this is good now. This is great. So I'm kind of curious. Is there another language that you want to continue to start learning or relearn? Korean being maybe one that you said that you
Yes,
feel that you're
definitely.
somewhat fluent and maybe conversational. But is there like Spanish in the works there or like another
I'm
language?
thinking of it actually,
Mm.
because I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna stay in Belgium once I'm done with like school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I swear the only thing that's holding me back is that the fact that Belgian diplomas are well known and like internationally wise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in my head, for me, it's like I stay here for school. Once I'm done with my master's degree, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm getting out of here. I don't know where, but I will be getting out of here.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, depending on how, with the whole COVID
Mm-hmm.
situation right now, depending on
Right.
how economies and just like the science fields in different countries will evolve
Mm-hmm.
from that point on, I was actually thinking of maybe going to Spain,
Mm-hmm.
Spain, Portugal, or Switzerland, and Germany, because they're kind of interesting for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, if I go there, I'm not trying to be the typical tourist who doesn't know anything, who just knows how to say hello and how are you.
Right.
I really want to learn the language.
For sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
learning Spanish definitely on my to-do list. Portuguese maybe.
Mm.
That's really one of the languages I find really hard, especially pronunciation. I'm
Mm.
so used to like a set of families of languages. Like I'm used to Indo-European languages and
Right.
then the East Asian languages
Mm-hmm.
more. So I know Portuguese is an Indo-European language, but the pronunciation is just something that I've never seen before.
Right.
So that's
You're like, this is different.
maybe on my to-do list.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely Spanish. Spanish, and I would say Korean or Japanese.
So I'm assuming though with the Portuguese, you're talking about Portugal Portuguese, right? That's what
Hmm.
I figured. Yeah.
Yes, because even like the Spanish that I learned at school,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the Spanish from Latin America. It's
Exactly.
really Spanish from Spain.
From
Because
Spain.
like you
Mm-hmm.
see, the way I said I speak Spanish
Mm-hmm.
is very simple. Yo hablo español,
Mm-hmm.
while you reply to me the same thing, but
Yeah.
in with different words.
But you know what's interesting about that though is that your Spanish, from what I understand, and even the dialect that I'm picking up on, is from Spain. Mine is
Hmm.
from Mexico.
Ooh,
So
I was almost there. I thought it was
yeah.
either gonna be one of the like Central American like countries. I was
Uh-huh.
hesitating between Mexico and I think Puerto Rico. So I
Oh,
was
okay.
almost there.
Yeah.
Because
It's
now
it
also due to me learning a lot of languages,
right.
I somehow have developed the skill of being able to tell what language you're
Mm-hmm.
speaking or what dialect or accent you have. It's
Mm-hmm.
really nice.
Well, and I think what works to your advantage in that vein, if you will, is that you understand root words. With whether you even realize it or not, you understand root words and how they form certain words, certain language,
Hmm.
and certain sentence structure. And I think with the languages that you were talking about specifically, those are languages that, I mean, they're pretty much central to each other, and it's just really
Yes.
easy to then, or I take that back. It's not easy, but it's probably for someone who's really, able to just grasp a language and immerse themselves in the language. I think it became easier as you started to, if you will, collect these languages. Does that make sense?
Indeed, that's exactly what I
Yeah.
always tell people when they like ask me like how are you able to learn these languages?
Mm-hmm.
I always say I don't learn it the way we learn languages at school.
Right.
I do learn if there's a different alphabet, I will learn the alphabet first, so that I'll be able to read and work on my pronunciation.
Mm.
Um, but indeed, me when approach a language, I want to be able to speak with a native speaker. I don't want to
Yeah.
be able to speak with a teacher who speaks that language,
Right.
because there's like really a difference between those two.
Yeah.
So what I do indeed, I go to the root of that language,
Mm-hmm.
analyze indeed the way people structure their words, the way they use phrases, the intonations,
Yeah.
and specifically the pronunciation.
Right.
Because me, when I learn a language, I don't say I speak a language unless I have a good pronunciation.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for example, like Korean.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, Korean. When I started learning it, I was able to speak it after like I would say 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like 안녕하세요. You know, the
Right.
tourists who just discovered Korea. That's how I was
Yeah.
speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents, since they like to show off the fact that I speak a lot of languages, they were always there like, oh yeah, my daughter, she speaks Korean. And then they come pick me and they're like, oh, tell them something in Korean. And then I'm
Well, why are
like,
you putting me on the spot like that?
exactly. And since I know that my pronunciation is not that well, I started getting like anxious, and
Mm-mm.
then the only thing that came to my mind was like the song, like lyrics of a song that I
Right.
knew by heart, and then I knew like, oh, the pronunciation of those words I know.
Yeah.
I know I can pronounce these words well, so I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
And of course, luckily that person didn't speak Korean, so they didn't know that I was singing to them, you know. But like
For all you
at
know,
that
you could have been
moment,
saying something.
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But like at that moment, my parents would say that I would speak Korean, but for
Uh-huh.
me, didn't qualify that of worthy of Korean.
Right. Right. So, um, man, I love the fact that you are learning all those languages, and I'm kind of curious, maybe like further along as we talk through this, but like
Hmm.
maybe in the back of your mind, kind of consider the idea, like what profession does that lead to? Being able to speak in multiple languages, in my opinion, would allow for so many open doors to so many different areas of education, of being in the medical field, social sciences, whatever it may be. I mean, I kind of foresee that as a open door, really. But before we get into that a little bit more, I do want to kind of cover a little bit more of your channel and
Mhm.
kind of how you transitioned, because I think at one point, correct me if I'm wrong, but at one point on your channel you used to do something other than study with me live streams.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, if my memory serves me well, was I think that was at the time where I started learning Korean.
Mm-hmm.
I started uploading Korean songs that I enjoyed, mainly because I didn't have any accounts on like those streaming platforms. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they were, well, for me they weren't really a huge thing or interesting thing,
Mm-hmm.
and also like I didn't have the money to subscribe to those things. So what I wanted to do for myself was
Mm-hmm.
actually just upload songs that I enjoy on YouTube, and just for it was literally just my streaming platform where all my favorite songs were.
Mm-hmm.
And so for I think a good year or two I was just uploading songs, mainly K hip hop, K R&B, and sometimes R&B artists from America.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just stopped because I got busy with school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was at the time where I was creating my podcast, I was thinking of like, maybe I could do some uh visual episodes sometimes and upload them on my YouTube channel. And
Right.
then I remembered that, oh, I have this YouTube channel that I used to use to upload the music that I listen to.
Yeah.
Why can I not why wouldn't I revive that channel but
Mm-hmm.
with another concept? And at the time I just wanted to use it for my podcast, but now thanks or due to COVID, revived this channel
Mm-hmm.
and made it a study with me channel.
So, and I'm kind of curious as well to figure out, like, how did you encounter the study with me community? Like, how did you come up with, oh yeah, you know what, I saw this, or I came up with this idea. And because there actually have been some friends of mine who said that they did study, but they didn't know about the study with me community at all. They just would turn on the camera and live stream it. And I didn't even know that, they were live streamers. So what I'm kind of curious to know is, for you, how did you encounter the whole study with me community? Like, what was your first, like, oh, this was my first experience with study with me type of stuff?
um I think we were a month into the first lockdown, so it
Mm-hmm.
was mid April,
Mm-hmm.
or almost mid April or early April
Mm-hmm.
of last year. And I really started feeling the fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
like school wise.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't really know any, well, at the school I used to go to last year, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know a lot of people. So I was looking for people online to, I don't know, who I was looking for a study Discord to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard of people who created groups on Discord, because Discord is the easier way to like just video call people and stuff.
All right.
So I was looking for a study with me Discord group,
Mm-hmm.
and I stumbled upon, I think, James Scholes or Helene, her
Oh
study with
yeah.
me channel.
Is
I
it
think I stumbled upon those
study
two.
vibes?
Yeah, study vibes.
Yeah.
And she's also from Belgium.
Oh, she is. I thought. Oh,
Yes.
that's right. She is. Yeah, it was a test. I was just
We
testing you.
have some.
That's that's just what happened. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna let it slide. I'm gonna let
Yeah.
it slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I stumbled upon their discords,
Mhm.
and from there I went to their YouTube channel, and
Mhm.
I discovered the whole study with me live streamer
Mhm.
community, I guess, on YouTube, because I'm not really somebody who watches live streams to begin with. Even like video games and stuff like that, I don't really like watching live streams. I prefer like just going on YouTube and have a whole walkthrough video
Yeah.
than a live stream.
Right.
Um, and nobody that I know uh is into these like is watching those
Hmm.
study with me live streams. So it was really something new for me.
Mm.
And at the time, I think James, he had around 20K followers on YouTube.
Okay.
And so I would see his whole chat, like the all the people in the
Right.
chat, like encouraging each other and stuff like that. And I said, oh, that's what I need.
Mm.
Encouragement and people who for like accountability partners.
Hmm.
That's really what I was looking for.
Hmm.
And yeah, I then started studying with James, and like he actually motivated me to like get through school last
Yeah.
year.
Right.
And also like for this year, this school year, he helped me like change up my whole, I guess, day-to-day schedule for
Hmm.
school.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I got into the study with me live stream world,
Hmm.
and later on became a study with me live streamer.
Nice. Well, and so now I'm I would like to know though your area of concentration in school. So what is it that you go to school for?
Oh yeah. Me, I study pharmaceutical sciences.
Hmm.
People tend to say pharmacy, but the thing is, there's a difference. Pharmacy is really people who are pharmacists.
Okay.
Me right now, I'm just studying the general pharmaceutical sciences,
Okay.
and later on, the masters that I will have to do to get
Hmm.
are either a master to become a pharmacist, so
Hmm.
actually pharmacy masters in pharmacy,
Hmm.
or get a master's degree in pharmaceutical sciences, aka pharmaceutical industries.
Hmm.
So I'm studying pharmaceutical sciences. What do I want to become? I don't know yet.
Still not to be determined.
Yes, indeed.
You're like, I'll get back to you on that one. So that's interesting. And I think I heard you talk about your dad, who is a doctor or was a doctor. Is that
Who was a
correct?
doctor? Yeah,
So is there any influence there of kind of going in that industry, or where would you say
definitely.
that kind of came from?
That's definitely my parents.
Mm.
My dad was a doctor,
Hmm.
and a well-renowned doctor. I discovered that recently.
Really?
And my mom, yeah. The funny thing is, people tend to think that like having a dad who's a doctor, maybe it's just me, but my dad, he would never bring up work when he came in the
Mm.
house. It's not doctor, it's dad. You
Yeah.
know, it's just actually something that I appreciate, because
Hmm.
now that I look back on it, I could see why he wouldn't want to bring up work, because
Hmm.
he was specialized in a lot of things, but he would
Hmm.
mainly work in ICU
Oh
and
wow.
emergency.
Yeah.
So yeah, the things he had to see on a daily
See.
basis were not a simple cough or something, you know.
Mm, yeah.
So I think he didn't want to bring that stress to us,
Mm.
and also not the expect any kind of expectations or unwanted expectations.
Hmm.
Because yeah, a lot of people think that having a dad who's a doctor, somebody's going to become a doctor, or something, like, you have to excel or
Right.
be top
Right.
level just like him, especially your dad. I mean,
Hmm.
come on, he's known here in Belgium. He would
Right.
go to seminars and stuff like that. So like I said, I just recently discovered that he was a well-known doctor,
Mm.
that's just how well he
What was
hid it for us.
your reaction when you like found out like, oh, dad's actually kind of a big deal?
um it's an everyday, I don't know how to say it. Just like every day, I'm like rediscovering him somehow.
Mm.
Because even at school,
Hmm.
I literally have the same name as him. The middle name and
Hmm.
my family name are the same as him, while all my other siblings, they have a different middle name.
Hmm.
But because of that, a lot of people recognize and say, "Oh, is that the daughter of?"
Oh, I
So
see. Wow.
it started with that. At school, I had
Mm.
professors come to me. Well, not, COVID safe with six
Right.
feet between us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
um they would come to me and they would be like, I'm sorry to bother you, but "Are you the daughter of?" And then I was
Oh.
like, um, because I used to be a trouble child in high school, so every time when a teacher would approach me, I always thought it was like, oh, I did something bad. But I'm like, I'm in uni, y'all don't know me. I just like we've only seen each other 2 times in 6 months, and you come to me like, what did I do?
Yeah, like if a teacher approached you, you're like, "Oh, hey, pretend like you're talking to me." It's just like
Yes,
I need to get out of this
that's
somehow.
literally. I swear. Or I would act like, oh, I got a phone call. I'm sorry, I have to go.
I gotta go. There's an emergency at the hospital that you don't even know about. You don't even know.
I swear I would like be so scared to talk like one on one with teachers. So it started with that, and then I was like, how do all these people know my dad?
Mm,
And when I go to the hospital, because I go to the hospital where he works at,
hmm.
all the people that I guess serve me,
Hmm.
they all know me without me
Wow.
knowing them. They're like, "Oh, you're the last one of that of the from the doctor. Like he always used to talk about you. You were like a trouble chatter." I'm like, "How do y'all know my my life? But I've like this is the first time that I've met you."
Yeah. You know what? And
And
that's almost
then
like a little bit in hindsight. You're like, man, is this the Harry Potter story? Like, what? How do people know me? Like,
I swear that's really what I have. And even like now when because now things are opening back up.
Yeah.
But like when I want like we've gotten invitations to like seminars for next like possible seminars for next
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, imagine like people at those seminars actually knowing my dad, but like I don't know you, and they're
Right.
gonna come up to me like, "Oh, are you the daughter of?" Like for me,
Right.
that's all just that's like unwanted pressure because now I feel like I have to like be and excel at the same level as my
Mm,
dad was because he
mm.
really had something in there,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
I mean, from what I understood, he had four specialties,
Whoa.
so his IQ levels were probably really high,
Wait,
like
he had
definitely high.
four like he specialized in four different types of medicine?
So at school, he
Uh-huh.
specialized in one thing. It was like
Uh-huh.
internal medicine, I
Right.
think you call it like that.
Internal
And
medicine.
then
Yeah.
he's from a generation where you could specialize in something just by like literally experience at the hospitals
Oh,
instead of just
gotcha.
going to school.
Yeah.
And so since he was specializing in internal medicine, he
Hmm.
could actually go a lot of ways. And he went into endocrinology,
Hmm.
then ICU, and then emergency. So he specialized
Wow, that's
in those
amazing.
three while working.
I mean, that's I almost feel in some ways that the experience of working in those fields is really what makes you more of an expert, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that education is not helpful,
Mm-hmm.
and not going to school for it or anything. Like you should go to school for things like that. But it's amazing because I think that's the raw experience. That's just how you get immersed in something, and then you learn quickly, very quickly. I think it makes you almost grow up a bit. um, I'm just saying, out of experience, it makes you grow up a little bit. Um, so I'm kind of curious now about talking through your study with me stream and how do you approach that for you in the study field that you're in, and then like what are some things that are unique about your study with me live stream that maybe perhaps the people in the chat would like to know about, or even the people who are listening right now, or listening to this in replay. What's something unique that they people can look forward to when they go to your live stream?
um, I would say it's the breaks. I'm an avid like music lover.
Mm, same
Like
here.
I'm not just enjoying music because it's popular or you heard it at the radio.
Right.
I'm the type of person who when I enjoy a song,
Hmm.
mostly it's the melodies. I would look up the producer
Yeah.
instead of the artist who interpreted the song. The
Interesting.
same with
Nice.
lyrics. I
Hmm.
would look up the songwriter instead of the interpreter. And
Mm.
like a good example is Ariana Grande.
Hmm.
There was this one song I had heard once on the radio while I was working,
Hmm.
and I said the lyrics are kind of interesting, like the way it's written.
Hmm.
I really like that. And then I went and looked up the songwriter, and the songwriter was Victoria Monet, and
Okay.
she has become one of my favorite artists
Mm.
ever. Like she's in my top three, I would say, of my favorite artists.
Hmm.
But yeah, the music that I listen to, like I've created a playlist called Songs Heard on Live Streams, and
Hmm.
then there I put all the music that I listen to, and then I kind of rate or criticize, I would say.
Hmm.
And also like the way I experience stuff, like the music, you get the kind of like the raw experience, like those people who once a song drop they like review it or something. I
Right.
kind of do that during my breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I also knit. Like I have this yarn that
Uh-huh.
I need to finish by the end of this semester. So in a month and a half, I need to finish this whole yarn.
Wow.
So I try to knit during break time.
Nice. So, and does that help you decompress a little bit from working on your studies?
Yes,
Mm.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Especially the knitting part.
Hmm.
Because I think I have ADD or ADHD,
Mm.
and one of my coping mechanisms is always using my hands. So, for example, in the middle of my live stream, sometimes I just would go and pick up a ring, and then
Hmm.
I would just start playing with it,
Yeah.
so that my hands would be focused on something, but my
Yeah.
mind would be focused on studying.
Right.
And
That's
it,
a tactile learner. You're very much like I need to hear and see and kind of do something,
mhm,
fidget with things, and it just keeps your
yes,
mind almost focused sometimes when you do that.
exactly. And
Hmm.
I don't know how I found that out,
Mm.
but one day I just figured out that I need to buy a ring that I can play with on my fingers.
Right.
And so, yeah, these are like the rings that I'm wearing right now. These are the rings that you would see on live streams, and I would just like play around with these.
Hmm.
And during the break, what I do then is knitting, and knitting helps me like with keeping with remembering my thoughts of my wait train of thoughts,
Hmm.
because I tend to talk about one thing and then I would talk about something else and I forget what I was talking about.
Yeah,
So
I'm the
it
same
helps
way,
me
so
with
don't
the
feel bad.
focus.
No, I'm not even joking. Like it's one minute we're talking about like, let's say, studying or whatever, and then I'll be talking about like USA basketball, and I don't know how I got to USA basketball, but I just got there. Like I'm really good at storytelling, but it's never landing the plane. I just have a problem with
Oh,
that.
same.
Oh my gosh. So then I think you're speaking my language, but but I find it kind of interesting. I find it kind of interesting because of the way that you were expressing on how what makes your live stream unique, and you like to dig into like music, and you don't like just the surface answer. You want to know what's behind it. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
a correlation there between that and how you dig into music, and your ability to be able to dig into language. And I think there's a nice
Oh.
correlation there because of root words and just finding the root of something. And it's really interesting. I find that amazing that you have that ability where curiosity takes over, or you're just, I need to know. I need to know. And then you appreciate once you know, like, oh, this is where it originated from, or this is where it came
Mm-hmm.
from. You know what I mean? And I love that your mind does that. Like that you look for the bottom line. Like this is where it came from. This is the foundation. I just wanted to observe that for just a second because I find that fascinating.
Now that you said it actually is true. And this kind of like the interest that I have and that curiosity probably got awakened during my childhood
Mm.
with the fact. with the fact that my dad was a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
I always was like curious. I've always been into like biology and chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
and being a child, you would see stuff like on the news.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a child, there was like this commercial about like what to do when a fire starts in your home. And one of the things that I remembered was like, don't open the windows, don't let air come in.
Right.
And I was always like curious because I'm like, well, actually, when I start a fire, well, I'm not an arsonist. When I start a fire,
Right.
I would just whip my hands
Right.
and the wind would like blow out the, like, you know,
Right.
kill the fire.
Yeah.
And
So
like
you're
it
like,
would
why
not
would
make
then
any
opening
sense.
up the windows then do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then little by little, one like every year, I would kind of like reassess my knowledge
Mm.
and see how far I've come. And
Mm.
the way I reassess it is by understanding the root of stuff.
Right.
So for example, one thing that was really interesting and that made me understand that, oh, I'm growing and
Mm-hmm.
like scientifically,
Mm-hmm.
was sweat. It's really weird to say, but sweat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very anxious child, like person, and I would notice that my sweat will smell different depending on what makes me sweat. When
Mm-hmm.
I was anxious, it would smell really like a certain type of protein.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I would sweat due to like exercising, it would smell different. And
Mm.
I was just like, sweat is sweat.
Right.
And then I would notice, then I think when I was in my junior year of high school,
Mm-hmm.
it's freshman, junior, and then senior, yeah. Junior year of high school, I had this class in biology where we were learning about the excretion system
Mm-hmm.
and how our body gets rid of toxins.
Right.
And for me, toxins, that was just poison.
Mm.
But actually, toxins could be anything
Mm-hmm.
that could put your body in danger. So even healthy stuff could turn into toxins. That's what my biology teacher would say at the time.
Interesting. Mm.
And she said, like, for example, water. Why don't we drink? Why do we always say, oh, don't drink more than 8 glasses of water a day, or don't drink, don't like over, don't go over the amount implied by
Right.
by health experts?
Yeah.
Is because water could actually kill you if you
Mm-hmm.
drink too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it's kind of the same with some proteins that are in your body. And
Mm-hmm.
then I don't remember the names anymore. But she said, for example, when you're anxious, your body, when you're anxious or stressed out or nervous, your body would excrete a certain type of a stress hormone, cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And to get rid of that, you would either start sweating or
Mm-hmm.
start breathing heavily,
Right.
etc., etc. And then it clicked in my brain. And I said, so when I'm anxious, I actually am nervous
Mm-hmm.
and then I get stressed out.
Yeah.
And which is why during when I'm anxious, I start to excrete that type that stress hormone.
Right.
And then when later on, like 2 years later, I discovered through while reading an article that when you work out, you excrete a different type of hormone, a happy hormone.
Mm-hmm.
Could be, I think it's serotonin or pheromone. No, I think it's serotonin.
Serotonin.
It's one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you would
Possibly
excrete that
serotonin.
hormone
Yeah.
while working out.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, now I understand
Mm.
why when you sweat due to workout, your sweat smells one way, and when you
Mm-hmm.
sweat due to anxiety or something or like stress,
Mm-hmm.
actually just get nervous in general,
Mm-hmm.
that sweat will also smell another way. You know,
And it's fun.
and
It's funny. I don't know too many people who actually analyze this and take the time to even react or respond to, like, I wonder if this sweat smells different from this type of sweat. Like, it's really interesting to me. And no, and I mean that in a like positive way. Like, there's not too many people I know who are like consciously aware that, like, oh, I'm kind of curious about this. They don't have that curiosity of like, I wonder, like they don't have that. So it's really fascinating to me that you have that. And again, that I think that goes back to what we were talking about is your ability to pick up languages, but to understand the root of all that. And then the same thing with music. You want to know who the artist is, but you also want to know the producer and the writer. Like it could be different from the actual artist. So I find that
Hmm.
fascinating about how you analyze things, and it's really intriguing. So yeah, but no, and I mean that in a great way, of course. Um, so just real quick, I want to see if we can get to, maybe there are a couple of questions that maybe the chat has. I don't know if you guys have any questions. Um, I was like locked into our conversation, Noir. So I think I almost tuned out the chat for the very first time. I'm not even joking. Like I think
Oh
I
wow,
tuned him out.
guys.
Yeah, I was
I
just like
guess
locked
I'm
in.
just that amazing
You
of
are.
a person to
You
interview.
are. No, seriously, and I mean that. Like and you're really great with conversation, so I really appreciate your time just being here and everything like that. But before we like wrap things up, I want to see if there are maybe some questions in the chat that I might have missed. Um I think one is from. Okay, so this is going back to our conversation in the beginning about like being fluent in, I think you said Flemish, right? Is one of
Yeah,
the
Flemish.
languages you're fluent in. So Aditya was the one who asked, uh or he made the comment, yeah, I know what you are talking about. Recently I have been getting in touch with some Flemish people that have a weird sort of accent. And then said also to follow up with a question, have you faced any racist behavior while growing up in Belgium?
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
mm,
Um, that's something that I've noticed. A lot of people. Um, Now just gonna talk for the Black diaspora in general.
mhm,
A lot of Black people, when they come to Europe, they tend to think that Europe is a nice and happy place because the way racism is shown or expressed is different.
mm,
Here people don't have the balls, as we say, to be loud and openly racist
mm,
because it's actually punishable by the law. And over here, law is separated from the government,
mm,
Whereas in America, for example, you could you could, I mean, just look at Trump.
mhm,
He became the president of America, and never got convicted for any of his racist behavior. While
mhm.
here in Belgium, you would actually be reprimanded for it. Well,
Right.
I'm just talking here for Belgium. I don't know in other countries.
Mhm,
But yeah, racist behavior, I've encountered it. On my podcast, my very first episode,
mhm,
is in French, but I'm thinking of like maybe translating it in English.
mhm,
It's about the Sanda Dia case. It's a case of a mixed race student who
mm,
went to the most prestigious school in Flanders called the Catholic School of Leuven. So KUL Leuven.
okay.
Um, and he died there
Oh wow.
during I think he was 19 or 20, and
Mhm,
he died while doing activities, like those student clubs.
mhm.
They tend to have like, how you call them, I get like some kind of baptism to get new members,
An
like some
initiation.
rituals. Yes,
Mm,
that's the name.
yeah.
Because in Flemish we say doop, that literally means baptism, but yeah,
Oh, I see.
initiation.
Right.
That's what he was doing, and
Mhm.
he died while doing that. And the
Mm,
thing is,
man.
that was the first, not my first encounter of racism, but it was like the first case of a student of color
Mhm,
dying in a predominantly white school.
mm,
And he was the only black member, I would say, like member of color in that group, and all of the other people were white. And the case, I think it's still going on till now. But since the
wow.
kids who were members of that group, of that club, are kids from well-known of high-profile families in
Mm-hmm.
Flanders, they're probably not going to get convicted because their family just have that much influence. Like they're really rich,
Wow.
rich, not rich people that like I mean really rich, rich. Yeah, and like that's just to show you like this case barely had any coverage until their family, the family of that boy, went to media outlets and asked like, could you talk about it? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
if the family didn't do that, I wouldn't have
Mm.
I wouldn't have known that
Right.
this person would have died.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have done my episode. That wouldn't have been the first episode that I had recorded and stuff like that. And I even think it had like some kind of international media coverage too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I say all of this because to show you like how I guess unbothered the general Belgian public is
Mm-hmm.
by racist behaviors and racist actions that actually could lead to murder. Maybe not at the same rate as in America,
Mm-hmm.
but it exists, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And also like the whole first series
Mm-hmm.
of my podcast is called Dear Flemish People, and it's
Mm-hmm.
literally some kind of letter to the Flemish people,
Mm-hmm.
where I address their racist behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Me, most of the racist behavior I've encountered was at school,
Mm-hmm.
because for people who don't know, in Belgium, you literally have it's one country, but it's as if we were two countries. You have Flanders and then you have Wallonia. In Flanders, we speak
Oh,
Flemish.
right.
In Wallonia, you speak French.
Yeah.
And then in the capital city, Brussels, you speak French, English, whatever. It's literally like a
So
mix
it's
of
kind of
everything.
like a mixture of it all.
Hmm.
Mm.
And the level of racism, or let's just say racist behave, like just racist in general, are more present in Flanders than in Wallonia
Oh.
or Brussels.
Mm-hmm.
And me, ever since I was little, I always went to predominantly white schools.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in kindergarten, I
And
was
you
the
said
only
in
black
Flounder or
girl.
Flanders?
Yeah, in Flanders.
Mm-hmm.
So there, when I was in kindergarten, I was always the only black girl up
Mm.
until in kindergarten I was the only black girl. I think I had one black boy there. Then in primary school, I think, which is kind of like the equivalent of elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
we probably were like three black kids for a class of like 28 or 29 pupils.
Mm-hmm.
Then in high school, at the beginning, I was the only black girl for my first, second, and third year. Um, Wait, it's not high school, it's secondary school. In secondary school, so
Mm-hmm.
you start secondary school is 6 years long,
Mm-hmm.
and get in there at 12 and you get out there at 18. So the
Okay.
class I was in when I was 12,
Mm-hmm.
when I got in that school, I was the only black girl for my first year, second year, and then in third year, my sister was the second black girl I knew there. And then in fifth year, my other sister was the third black girl.
Wow.
And then in fifth year, my sister had another black friend. So we were four black girls and two black boys for a whole
Oh my gosh.
secondary school where we probably were with like 700 something students.
I'm kind of curious. Did you feel like the racist maybe behavior got worse as you got older, or
Yes.
like okay, yeah? And I mean I figured that most likely is the case, but I wasn't sure like what your full experience was like. Um.
Um, I think, let's just say put it like that, it never changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I grew up. I started to understand the way society works, the way white privilege and white supremacy works, and now I stand way firmer on
Mm-hmm.
on my own, like on my feet, than I
Mm-hmm.
used to when I was in secondary school. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
now somebody talks bad about me or just talks down on me or just doubts my skills that I know I have. I will check you on that. If you
Mm-hmm.
disrespect me, I will check you on that. While
Mm-hmm.
before, I would just let it slide. I was like, oh no, let's not make any commotions because I'm either gonna be branded as the angry black girl, which it's always the case. Like I even had that happen at the beginning of this week for a group project that I had to hand in, where one white boy was not doing what was asked, and I had been asking him to do it for a good for the past month,
Mm-hmm.
and like I asked him to do it a month ago because I knew that at this time in my personal life I would not be able to handle this schoolwork,
Mm-hmm.
and I checked him on that. I checked the people, all the people who were supposed to do it, him and two other members of the group,
Mm-hmm.
and they literally started lashing out at me, talking about, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing. Everything you do, the feedback you give is just bullshit and stuff like that."
Mm.
And you see, the thing is, I somewhere it's a blessing that I had a dad who was a doctor,
Mm.
because the way the way he would look at my scores, he would always be objective.
Yeah.
So if he thinks that you're good at something, you actually are good at it.
Mm.
Not just good or average, you are above average.
Right.
And he's always said that about me. He said
Mm.
that, like, if you would have wanted to, you probably would get into medical school.
Mm.
And that has always stayed with me.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere is the root of the boosting confidence that I've had while growing out of my teenage years,
Right.
because I'm 21 now. I'm
Yeah.
actually an adult. um,
You're like, I'm with y'all.
Indeed, I
Yeah.
can drink now. So, that boosted my confidence and reaffirmed, and made me like, in moments of doubts,
Mm.
that's what I think
Yeah.
back. That's what I look back at. The conversation that I had with my dad, all his commentary and his feedback that he would give to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
know some people, when I say that my dad is like that, was like that, they would think like, oh, he's harsh. Um, but I guess it's some kind of professor syndrome
Mm.
that, like, once you get a level of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
basic knowledge does not impress you, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna put up a face and act like you're impressed.
Right.
I also have that now.
Mm.
um like, when, for example, in the group work that I was talking about, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not impressed by somebody who discovered that, oh, this hormone does that. I mean, you're studying pharmaceutical sciences.
Right.
That's You're supposed to know that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you had the course,
That's
you
all.
had a
That's
chemistry
already a
course.
given. Like you already.
Yes. Like, I'm
That.
not gonna say,
That's not
"Oh my
impressive.
god, you deserve the Nobel Prize for, I don't know,
Here's
new
your
invention in
award. You
chemistry." I guess I also have that now.
mm.
But like, I call it the professor syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, he would be like that. Like, the more we grew up, the further we got in our, like, our school career, the more he would show his professor syndrome. And
Mm.
then, like, for example, the way he would show it is like when you get your grades.
Mm-hmm.
We don't work with the ABC system. We work
Right.
with like a scoring system on 20.
Okay.
And it's impossible, like literally almost impossible, to get a perfect score here in Belgium. To be like
What's a perfect score?
a good score, a perfect score would be like 20 out of 20, but that's
Okay.
like unattainable. Like,
Okay.
professors just find it impossible, because
Gotcha.
they say it's impossible for a student to know all the knowledge of a course. Humans make errors, so it's
Right.
impossible.
Mm-hmm.
um but like, it's possible, for example, to like a good grade or an excellent student is our students who get grades above 14 on
Okay.
20, so about more than 70%,
Mm-hmm.
and so my dad, when I, for example, would come home with a 12 out of 20, he would always like deduct 2 points and say, okay, you got a 12 out of 20, but you just know half, like, you just know 10 out of 20. 10 out of 20 of all the stuff that you've seen, that's the knowledge that's actually stuck in your brain, and that's the knowledge that you would only be able to apply in real life situations. That's probably because, I mean, he has the experience. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for specialties, it's not nothing.
Right.
And so every time when he would say, "Oh my god, I'm lost in my train of thoughts."
The four specialties. Having
Yes,
the four specialties.
yet so him having those four specialties,
Mm-hmm.
um at the time I just knew that he was doing ICU and emergency, so I was already just impressed by him doing having two
Right.
specialties. So for me, he was a person of authority
Mm.
on my school career, you
Right.
know. um And that was a blessing for me because now I know what I'm worth. I know
Mm,
that studying pharmaceutical sciences is my thing. And also, I actually got signs that confirmed my skills, my ability.
mm-hmm.
So when that boy was telling all of those things while he was ranting, I think it was Sunday evening, the night between Sunday and Monday, um, was there like, oh, you have the audacity to try to criticize my abilities, my skills that I've worked, polished for the past 21 years,
Mm,
that I've earned and actually worked hard for, just because I'm calling you out on not doing your job decently. Because me, people know I don't work for, I don't want to get like 60%, like 12 out of 20. I don't work for that. I work
mm-hmm.
to get the highest grades possible.
Mm,
So if I have to push you to get there, I will do that
mm-hmm.
because I'm not here for to be like an average student. I actually want to excel in
Right,
pharmaceutical sciences.
right.
And so he started saying that, and then you had another member kind of backing what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally said, I didn't say it to them, but like in my mind, I was just like, between you guys and I looked at the workload, the input, and the results of the input.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, the great results came from me and
Mm-hmm.
two other members, but they
Mm-hmm.
weren't the ones who did the most important work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for that group project, we had to present something. We had to present a drug. And
Ooh.
the professor, he asked questions at the end of our presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked questions about knowledge that we
Mm,
have acquired during the year. And he started asking joker questions about possible knowledge that we could have gotten while doing this group project, but it's no problem if you're not able to answer those questions.
right.
And most of the times, it was me and another girl who were able to reply to answer to those questions. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I look at all those little signs, and people might say, "Oh, it's just luck, or you just happen to understand that."
Mm-hmm.
Me, I know it's not just luck; it's actually the work and effort that's paying off
Mm-hmm.
in those little things. Me being
Right.
able to understand that, oh, if you give this medication, it will influence your whole hormonal cycle, maybe delay some like phenomenons in your body, or
Mm-hmm.
accentuate some phenomenons, stuff like that. Now
Yeah.
I'm like I said, the way I study the root cause of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so that those kind of questions that the professor were asking, those joker questions, I would be able to answer them to a certain extent,
Yeah.
even though I might not have passed or had the class where you would have that knowledge taught to you.
Right. But the idea
But
behind it is that you have a working knowledge of this is the root cause of said,
mhm,
you know, thing.
yes.
And therefore I can answer based off of that, but I might not know the entirety of it all, but I do know where it comes from. And that's why I can
Mhm.
answer this, if that makes sense.
That's exactly how my brain works.
Well,
That's exactly how my
I
brain
find that
works.
100% fascinating. I think that's great. We need more minds like that in I think what we call STEM, right?
Mhm.
STEM is really important, and some people even call it stream. But I do know that STEM is really important to have, and we need more minds who are geared towards that. So I think that's wonderful that you're in this particular field. We do have another question that I wanted to throw at you real quick, or actually, I think we have two more questions, if you don't
Mhm.
mind. This is from Sabrina. Thank you, Sabrina, for the question. What is your life mission, and how would you like to be remembered? That's a great question. Thank you, Sabrina.
Yeah, that's a really great question because I've actually been thinking about this for the past 1 year and a half.
Mm.
um because I don't know if I mentioned it, but my dad passed away like last year in
Oh, I'm
April.
sorry. No, I didn't know that.
Oh no, don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, he passed away last year.
Mm.
And it's from the moment that he passed away that I started like little by little discovering his accomplishment, uh in like the medical field.
Mhm.
And I started actually seeing that he had, besides us, his family, he
Mhm.
actually had like influenced other people that I
Mm.
don't know. Those people that I was talking about that they know me but I don't know them.
Right.
He probably has impacted their lives some way and somehow.
Yeah.
And when the way my dad was, he was always belittling like himself, I want to
Mm.
say. Um Not that he was doubting about his skills, like he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Like he knew that there was something in there.
Yeah.
But he was not the show off kind of doctor. Like, oh yeah, I'm a doctor. I got no, he wasn't like that. Like you would see him on the street. Sometimes he would even lie and say that, oh no, I'm just a cleaner, I'm just a janitor or something like that.
Wow.
Because he just really didn't care, I guess, about the title. He
Mhm.
was really just more focused on saving lives.
Mm.
And like I said, me, I've heavily been influenced by him ever since I was little. So I think that also is reflected in my life mission.
Mhm.
I don't really want to. I'm not saying that I want to kill people, but like I don't really want to be in the aspect of saving lives, as in like the way doctors do, because
Right. Well,
that responsibility I can't
that's a lot of
handle.
pressure.
Yes, exactly.
Like
It's really a lot
maybe
of
a
pressure.
profession where lives are not dependent on you, It's
Exactly.
yeah, it's a lot of
And
pressure.
I found it, well, I think for the moment I found it, and it's
Mhm.
probably going to be teaching. Because since
Mm.
COVID, like since the first lockdown, I've lost like all of my student jobs that I used to have during the year or in the summer holidays. And so I had to get back
Mhm.
into my one of my first student jobs, which was tutoring.
Mm.
Um, and while getting back into it, I started to actually develop
Mhm.
uh, an interest into teaching,
Mhm.
because I actually do enjoy the fact that I can pass on knowledge.
Mhm.
And like you said, the way my mind, like in the STEM field, there's not a
Mhm.
lot of people. Well, from my own experience too, there's not a lot of people who think like me.
Right.
I feel like people just study to get a degree, work, get money,
Yeah.
and survive.
Yeah.
Me, I really want to do, yes, I want to work, yes, I want to survive,
Mhm.
but I also want to do something else,
Yeah.
impact lives, or I don't know, maybe find something, discover a new medicine, I don't know, but like
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
want to impact something or some like a community,
Yeah.
specifically people who look like me, like Black girls, because
Mhm.
that's something I don't see a lot.
Mm.
In my own year, I think right now there are probably 3 or 4 Black girls for, I think, 130 students,
Wow. Yeah.
and that's only first year, so it's probably gonna lower
Yeah.
for next year and the year after that.
Mm.
So yeah, my life mission, I guess I would say it's teaching.
Mm.
I don't know what yet. Maybe I could become a professor, or yeah, maybe I could like become a professor and then later on lay back and go teach in high schools.
Mm.
Because actually I had like my favorite teacher from high school was my math teacher that I had in junior and senior year,
Mhm.
and he was a professor in like a doctor in math,
Yeah.
and he was so smart that he actually discovered a whole theorem about pole coordinates, I think, something with trigonometry.
Mm.
And he said like, yeah, I used to teach in universities, but he enjoyed teaching so much that he didn't like teaching to big groups of students. He always
Mm.
enjoyed tiny groups of students because he enjoyed the connection,
Yeah.
and he could see the impact that he had
Right.
on those kids way more and way better.
Yeah.
And that's something that I also have now discovered and
Mhm.
enjoy. So teaching, definitely my life mission, and also probably setting up some initiative or association. No, some, how you call it, initiative? Yeah, just like, I don't know,
Mhm.
make it easier for Black girls in
Mm.
STEM.
Yeah.
Because I personally, up until last year, I didn't know any Black scientific woman. I knew
Yeah.
my dad.
Yeah.
I knew some of his friends,
Mm.
but they were all male colleagues. I
Right.
never saw a black woman, a black doctor. That's really weird. Like I never saw that.
Yeah.
And then last year I discovered Raven Baxter. Um, I think her, like she's known as Raven the Science Maven,
Mm.
and she made a song I think about Tylenol or mm, one disinfecting spray that's known in America, and she blew up. And due to that, I discovered her,
Yeah.
and she's also in the STEM field. I think she just got her doctorate in like the science of education and teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and before that, she mastered in molecular biology.
Mm.
If my Yeah, molecular biology. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, she's in the same field as me. She's a woman. She's a black woman. She like, for once, I could fully like 100% um recognize myself in somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that all the other black people that I follow or that I look up to aren't interesting. It's
Right.
just that they would have
But
some
you
aspect.
found kind of like a role model in a sense.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Yeah.
Because most of the time the black women that I follow, they either are in the creative industry,
Mm-hmm.
in anything but science. And so I would be able to rely and not to relate
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent, but then the like to a certain extent, and then I would feel like some kind of disconnect because of it.
Mm.
And with Raven, I don't have that.
Oh, I
I like
see.
She calls herself, I think, a big old geek,
Yeah.
and that's literally me. Like, I'm a geek. I love science. Like, if you want to like make me read like a scientific paper or article, like, I'm here for it.
Right.
um you wanna study some organic chemistry, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly, she's like my role model, and I guess my life mission somehow is also being a role model to black
Mm.
girls.
Yeah.
uh oh, I forgot the question. So it was life mission, and what else?
So it was how would you like to be remembered?
Oh yeah, so I would like to be remembered as a big old geek then. Somebody who enjoyed life and
Yeah.
science.
Yeah. And and uh, based off of what you're talking about, because you're talking about education, which is the field I'm in, and being an educator is one of the most rewarding things that, I mean, for me personally, if you're in it for the intrinsic value, right, of trying to mold and shape lives and to, empower them. Really, the whole point of having power is to use it to empower someone else. And
Hmm.
I love the idea of this term called guardian. I just love the term guardian. Like, I'm a geek when it comes to, like, you know what, I'll even say I'm a nerd. And actually, I even see Hey Archer, who is one of the biggest nerds I know. He is he is a YouTuber, so definitely check his stuff out. But um when it comes to, like, superhero talk and everything like that, I love that kind of stuff. And there's this one particular show, Supergirl, that I used to watch a lot. And there's this one guy named Guardian, and he's a black guy who he has this like armor. It's full on armor, and just he's got a nice shield on and everything like that. I don't know why, but like for me, that spoke volumes in terms of a teacher and how they're able to
Hmm.
kind of guide the if you will, the trajectory of a student learning's behavior and things like
Exactly.
that. So I love being part of that story, even if it's very, very small. As a cinematic arts teacher, I was so passionate about getting students excited about literature, but I was like, how do I do that? How do I actually get students excited about literature? Well, there's a culture around movies. There's a culture around cinema. And so I said, okay, well, let's go from that basis, and then let's start teaching how this connects from one thing to cinema, and so forth. And then sooner than later, I actually found out by doing that how much of a rapport I had with these students and how much trust that we started to have and build with each other. And then I was able to then experience what they were experiencing as their guardian. I was able to then kind of teach them certain things that they're like, I had no idea. That's so cool. And then what I'm saying, all this to say, is that I think being a teacher is one of the most brilliant professions. That's definitely, in my opinion, not recognized as one of the best professions out there. This is not to put any other profession down, but it's definitely it's the most unthanked profession, I think, that I can possibly think of, you know? And so I think it's admirable that you want to be a teacher or a professor of some sort, to be that, if you will, guardian, to kind of guide people in the right direction, you know? And I think, especially from your story, to empower young black women, you know, in the field of whether it's STEM or just anything really. I think it's wonderful that you want to be that role model for them, you know? That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And exactly that, like, the word guardian is literally what the word that I was looking for earlier on. When I tutor kids,
Mhm.
I also talk about that on my podcast. I
Mhm.
tend to like before I would just take any student that needed classes, that needed extra help.
Mhm.
But when I stumbled upon a little boy
Mhm.
who was a person of color, and he was doing decent. You know, he
Mhm.
was doing decent. He was in his first year of secondary school. And the thing is, the way I guess racism is portrayed here, um, one of the ways is the way teachers teach.
Mhm.
There's a huge difference, especially in Flanders, because I only teach to kids since I only speak Flemish. I only teach to kids who go to Flemish school.
Mhm.
Um, from my own experience and from what I'm seeing, what the kids who are now in secondary school are experiencing, it still hasn't changed.
Mhm.
It's like these teachers are not doing what teachers are supposed to do.
Mhm.
um at least to people of color and black people, you know,
Mhm.
they're like literally just there to diminish you and tear you down at any possible chance, like any chance that they can get, they will grasp that chance and tear you down as much as they can.
Wow.
um Me, I'm gonna talk about from my own experience. The when I like the secondary school I went to, in my first year I was doing Latin,
Mhm.
because you only had two options. It was either Latin or just nothing, like just modern sciences,
Mhm.
which was basically a mix of economy, natural sciences, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And let's just say Latin was viewed as like the option that the elite, the bourgeoisie,
Mhm.
do.
Yeah.
Since the school I went to was also just full of rich kids. Like, you know, you have middle class, then you have rich kids, and then you got the rich kids.
Yeah.
The people I went to school with were between rich and rich, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So when they saw me, they, like, not the kids but the teachers, they were shocked.
Mhm.
And when they knew that I was a sister of the two, that I had two other sisters in the
Right.
school, they were, let's just say, more shocked. Because
Mhm.
like, I remember in my first class I came in and then I said, I'm the sister of this and this person, and they said, oh, are there like any more kids coming, or are your parents
Wow.
done creating kids, you know? And it's like those little, I would call them big microaggressions, that made my experience in high school really traumatizing
Mhm.
and made me hate school, to the
Mhm.
point that, like, I you know, now when I go to school I don't have a hard time waking up. I just get up. Of course, you have good days, you have bad days.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
in secondary school,
Mhm.
I don't remember having any good day unless it was like the last school day of the school year.
Ooh.
You know, that's just
Wow.
how bad
Yeah.
my experience was in high school,
Mm.
and like in secondary school.
Yeah.
And so it's those little microaggressions, and then on top of that, the way that they just don't see you as a kid. They literally, I remember, I think I was 14 or 16 years old, and I had my French teacher literally scream in my face like she was that close from me, scream in my face just because like I had forgotten my textbook, which happens, I mean, I'm human.
Yeah.
And I remember I was going through like a particularly hard time because I think I was depressed at the time, like really,
Mm,
really depressed.
yeah.
And like she was doing all of that. Meanwhile, she was, I think, 48 or 49 years old, and I was only 16. And when I reacted to it and I said, like, you're literally screaming in my face, could you get out of my face? I'm viewed as a bad guy,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
But I've never seen her scream in the face of my white counterparts.
Yeah.
I've never seen her behave any kind of undecent way with
Mm,
my white counterparts. Um,
yeah.
and that also was felt and expressed when like they had to like decide on I guess my orientation, because at the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
the way school works, you get A, B, or C. It's not a score, it's literally just the category you're in. A means you've passed your year and you can continue and do whatever option you want to.
Mm-hmm.
B means you've passed your year, but you get a warning for the classes that you don't pass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't pass those classes next year, you will have to redo your year.
Mm-hmm.
And then C means you did not pass your year, you're gonna have to redo it. Whether you change options, whatever it is, like you did not pass your year.
Yeah.
And every year I would get an AB test. So A means I passed my year, can do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't see me doing what I'm doing right now. They don't see me doing Latin. So they told me to go change my orientation. Um, and the way orientation works, you've got different kinds of school forms. You've got
Mm-hmm.
general school form,
Mm-hmm.
which is, let's just say, the highest school forms. Like if you want to go to a uni, you got to get stay in general.
Right.
In a general school form. Then you got technical school form and professional. Then you got, wait, general, technical, um, professional, and art school form.
Oh, okay.
So I was in the general school form
Mm-hmm.
doing Latin. So I was doing the creme de la creme.
Mm.
And they were telling me to change and go into a technical school and do something like do business something. Like I've never been interested in economy, but they told me go do business and languages.
Mm.
And every year I would get that same result. You get A B, you've passed, but we don't see you staying in general.
Mm.
You got A B, you passed, but we don't see you staying in general. You need to go to technical school, go do business and languages. And I got grades that back up that
Mm-hmm.
didn't like my grades, the results, like like their opinion and
Mm-hmm.
my grades did not match.
Yeah.
Why am I in the top 5 best students of my year, but I'm not getting the same like opinion
Yeah.
as the other 4 students who are at top 5? They all got
Mm-hmm.
A's and I got AB. So that's the way like teachers discriminate black people and people of color.
Mm.
And so this boy that I started tutoring, he had lost all his self confidence because he had experienced the same thing. He just happened to fail, not even fail, he just had a lower score for one class.
Mm-hmm.
And the teachers were like, they went rampant and they said, no, they said to the mom, no, we don't see your kid staying here. If he can't even do that, he won't be able to do this, and this.
Mm.
Well,
Wow.
and like when I came in, the mom was explaining all of this, and she was like trying to prove to me that her child is a good student, he studies well, and stuff like that. And I said, you don't need to prove me anything.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I will believe what I see, And it's not like I wasn't saying like, oh, I don't believe you. It's just like if I see the potential in your kid, I will tell you. If I
Mm-hmm.
don't see it, I will also tell you. Like not saying that kids don't have any potential, but I mean the potential to stay in the school form that you're in, I will
Mm-hmm.
tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started tutoring the kid, and let's just say he is like I still tutor him till this day, and he is the best student that I've had. Like
That's awesome.
and the first thing that we did, I tend to do that to people of color and black people, is that like the first time we meet each other, it's no charge. Like you don't have to pay me. We're just getting to know each other. I just want to see and like really just get to know the kid
Yeah.
not the student. I just want to get to know the kid who I'm going to be teaching.
Yeah.
And so he started telling us, and like, it's kind of like the interview that we're having right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just asked him plain questions. I'm like, so what's your name? Do you have any friends? What do you like? Et cetera, et cetera. And then most of the time the kids say, oh, I like anime, I like stuff. And then we start connecting,
Yeah,
because I'm like,
exactly.
oh, you like anime? I like that too. Oh, you like sciences? I like that too.
Right.
If you would want to, I don't know, if you want to have like, get like, because I got some like science books for kids and stuff. I
Mm,
said, if you want to, I can bring you some and you can read up whatever you want. If you have any questions, don't hesitate.
right.
Um, and I also have friends who work in most of the times in the fields that those kids are interested in. So I'm like, yeah, if you want, maybe one day, if like I say, like if you pass your year, maybe you'd get to meet them, or I will bring you something from their work, just to
Mm-hmm.
motivate the kid. And so the first like art interview is finished, and I said, I immediately say to the mom, like, is like, I didn't even see his report cards or anything, and I was like, yo, I'm pretty sure that this kid does not have any issues. It's just that he had bad time management with his exams and
Mm,
was not able to study enough for that course, which is why he didn't fail. He just had not he didn't have the average. And so I told the mom, I said, like, can I see his report card? Because I think I know what's going on
mm-hmm.
from my own experience. And
Yeah.
exactly that's what happened. This
Mm,
kid got torn down from his first report card. So from the first one he got into school up until his first exam session, the teachers were always like giving only negative feedback, no support. They were like, yeah, you got to do this, this, this. But when the kid goes to the teacher to ask questions, the teachers
mm,
aren't really responsive. They're not
yeah.
really the guardian that they're supposed to be.
Mm,
And so I took upon me to be that for him.
yeah.
So I said, like, if you have any questions, you got my phone number. Like, just call me with like your mom's phone. Send me an email. I will always reply. Especially since his mom, she didn't go to Flemish school,
Mm-hmm.
so she doesn't really know how that system work and how the teachers are. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, racism is way more rampant in Flanders than it is in Brussels or Wallonia.
Mm-hmm.
And like after 1 or 2 months of working on just that class he failed, like, well, that class he didn't fail, but like just working on that class that he didn't do good in,
Yeah.
and also working on his self-confidence,
Mm,
he started being himself again,
yeah.
and opening way, like, I could literally like see, the sparkles in his
Yeah.
eyes. That's what I could see.
Yeah.
And that's at that point that I was like, teaching is what I got to do,
Mm, yeah.
you know
And I think you're also talking about, if I'm not mistaken, but it's that what in the education system, at least in America, we refer to it as the aha moment, where
Mm-hmm.
a student's like, and you're like, that's my favorite reaction when a student realizes they can do it. And you just like internalize a little bit. Sometimes you externalize,
Yes.
but you're just like, they got it, and you want to see more moments like that as an educator, because you want them to feel that empowerment, that you want them to feel like, I can accomplish this, I can do this, this is possible. And I thought it was impossible, especially with the kind of way that I've been treated. I, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm not, able to accomplish things like other people. No, that's not true at all. You're fully capable of accomplishing wonderful things. And
Mm-hmm,
as a
mm-hmm,
guardian, so on, quote unquote guardian, that's our job, is to show them you are capable. You are absolutely
exactly.
capable. And I love that you're like, yeah, I think teaching something I want to pursue for sure, And what we do, I think, have one more question. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
honor that question, because we had, I think, one or two. So we'll see if we can kind of get through these next questions a little bit quicker. What? Oh, I think this was in reference to, have you faced any racist behavior while growing up in Belgium? But this is a follow up. Um, what is the biggest passion in your life? And I think we were already touching on teaching as kind of like a newfound, if you will, passion. But
Hmm.
is that still like your biggest passion in life, or what would you say your biggest passion is? And then we'll have one more question after that.
Um, I can't like say what my biggest passion is, but my biggest passions
Mm-hmm.
are science and teaching.
Mm,
So I'm probably maybe gonna do something like Raven, maybe
right.
get a doctorate in like science education, and then become a professor or a teacher myself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one day I'll start a school. Like I don't know, but I will
That
definitely do
that would
something
be
in
awesome.
teaching and science. And
Yeah.
also, to touch back on, I think a comment you made earlier when I was talking about the languages I spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm definitely going to be that having all those languages is definitely going to be my advantage in the sense
Huge
that I might
advantage. Oh
be
yeah.
able to go and teach in different
Mm-hmm.
countries.
Well, it's
Maybe one day I'll
interesting
go to Korea.
because for you, the biggest issue that most teachers have is cultural interest, if you will. Um,
Hmm.
especially in America, I will say this. This is an observation, so it's just an opinion. But there is this idea that I don't understand their culture. I am a good teacher, so I'm still going to teach as best as I can with their learning style. The problem is a lot, in my opinion, a lot of their learning style is tied to their culture, how they
Yes.
learn, how they perceive certain aspects of learning, whatever you may call it, but it's really tied to culture. And I feel like there's a gap there. If you were able to, however, have a conversation with one of those students in their language, you've
Hmm.
already broken down a wall where there's no longer a language barrier and you're starting to immerse yourself in that culture, in that learning style that perhaps
Yes.
that
Yes.
student can
Yes.
reveal to you. That's a major advantage for you where you're able to then now connect with that student, or versus someone who perhaps only knows English and doesn't know much about cultures outside of their own
Hmm.
will struggle. A lot of first year teachers, they struggle with this idea because they're focused on, if you will, maybe like the 4 year type of learning, where they go to school, but they learn about cultures, they learn about all these important things, but
Hmm.
in the classroom, it's not, it's a different experience altogether. It's just different. The books are very different from the actual experience, kind of like what your dad, like he experienced a lot of things that I think would be almost more of an expert because of the experience, the hands-on training. Not to say that education's not helpful, or books or anything like that, but I'm just saying I think the experience gives you that advantage. And so for you specifically, I think having that repertoire of multiple languages really already like makes the playing field evened out to where you're already on the same page. You can understand their perhaps their culture, their ideas of things in culture. And so when it comes to like written assignments or tests or things like that, a way to connect with people, I think you already have that advantage. So I think that's wonderful that you have that. And I think, need more teachers who start to learn more languages, to be honest, because I think that's what helps them understand other cultures and to perhaps maybe have a more humble approach. You know what I mean?
Mm,
To teaching
yes.
versus I'm the professor. This
That's
is what
very
I know,
true.
and I know that what I know is what I know, and it's more important than anything else. If that makes sense. I don't know if
Yes, it makes sense.
yeah.
I have a friend who's studying to become like a secondary teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of has the same mindset as me,
Mm,
and you too.
mm-hmm.
And I see, like, she recently finished her interims,
Mm-hmm.
at schools, and from what I'm seeing and from what I've heard, the students liked her way more than the main teacher. It's always the case with like
Right.
assist like interim teachers, but she noticed that like she was able to touch them in a way that other teachers were not able to touch
Right.
them. And what she did was, like you said, she was humble,
Mm,
and understanding of what students of their age go through, and with their like depending on their cultural background,
Mm-hmm.
how hard or easy it is
Mm-hmm.
to go to school. So exactly, like you said, I think um learning languages and learning about different cultures is definitely the way to go
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
teachers.
Yeah, well, because I think it levels out the playing field for all of you involved,
Hmm.
and it makes you aware that there's other cultures, there's other intricacies that I have to be aware of as a teacher. So I think that that is just a wonderful advantage that you have for sure. And I want to get to another question. I think this might be our last one. Um, and this is from Ken. So, Ken, if you're watching this on the replay, thank you so much for being here and for your question. And we're going to wrap up with this question, Noir. So, what keeps you motivated? And when we were talking about motivation, how you kind of felt a little disconnect and
Hmm.
unmotivated, if you will. But what keeps you motivated on days that you don't feel like doing anything? And this is from a question from Ken.
um I would say the end goal
Mm-hmm.
of why I'm studying and doing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
My end goal is to actually be able to help people and to probably help myself in some way.
Yeah.
Um, you know, seeing, I guess, no, not seeing, I guess the fact that I've lost a parent so young, because I think I was 19 at the time,
Mm-hmm.
made me realize a lot of stuff about life that I didn't really, that I took for granted. Um, and you start to, there's like this thing that my dad would always say when I would get in trouble. It's like faire un examen de conscience. So it
Mm-hmm.
basically is like reassess yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did you do this? What do you what was the point of doing that? And I basically do that almost every week or 2 weeks. um and I also journal, which helps me, like, I get re-immerse myself into
Yeah.
how I was feeling that day that I
Mm.
wasn't able to like get anything done.
Yeah.
And then I would reassess myself in a way that I wouldn't avoid those bad days, because I mean, a human being is never is not happy all the time.
Right.
You gotta face your demons, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would reassess myself in a way that I would like critically analyze
Mm-hmm.
and try to find the root cause
Mm-hmm.
of what made me feel bad that day.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um, and then most of the times it's always, of course, school, because I'm a full time student. But
Right.
most of the time it's something related to like my personal life, and
Mm-hmm.
also indirectly related to my end goal.
Mm-hmm.
So what keeps me motivated? It's my end goal, and also the reason why that end goal is my end goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, those two. The reason why I'm doing all of this, and the
Mm-hmm.
end goal of my studies.
Yeah. Nora, thank you so much. This has been a very wonderful conversation. Like I said, I think the first half of the conversation, I literally tuned out the chat, which has never really happened to me before. So,
Hmm.
and we started off with like the whole languages thing, and I was like, dang, I'm so into this conversation right now, because I'm trying to come up, or not come up, but I'm trying to take the approach that I was just speaking of, where I think it evens out the playing field, and so I'm actually trying to relearn Portuguese. At one point when I was a little kid, I actually did speak French, and
Hmm.
and then
I
completely
saw
lost it.
that.
Yeah, I
I
like
think you
lost
said
it
that in
so fast.
I joined a live stream, and you said, like, I think I was speaking French with what's the name of the live streamer? I forgot their name. They were there in the beginning. The Abby study
Oh,
something.
what's it? RTB
Yeah,
Adventures.
RTB.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking with
Yeah,
them in French
Debs is
in the
actually
chat.
one of our mods. So she was here, so she's got, I think, two different accounts there. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's Debs. Yeah, at least we
Okay.
call her Debs. Yeah.
So I was speaking French with Debs, and then you said like, "Oh, I recognize some of these words," and
Yeah.
like you said that you spoke French at one point when you were a kid.
Yeah. And it was just,
Definitely, you should definitely do that. Like
oh
learn
man, and I'm
French.
I'm really trying to get back into the, so like for me, I think I was trying to, the goal at one point was like, I definitely want to be a polyglot. Like that was the
Mm-hmm.
mindset at first, and then I was looking into education, how that really does help. So I was like, that's the end goal. That's the reason why I should be doing what I'm doing. Is I need to learn Portuguese, I need to learn Spanish, I need to learn French, Italian. I like the romantic languages. I can't help it. Um,
No, I understand.
yeah. So those are the, that's the reason why I want to do that, though, because I already have a basis for it, and I find it interesting. Part of your story, you were talking about how you were learning the Latin. Latin is our roots. That's that is the
Yes.
root words of so many languages.
And that's probably why I also was able to learn Spanish, even though I only had like
Uh-huh.
1 hour a week.
But it's interesting
The
because you can make the connection real fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like the root theory
Mm,
behind like all those Roman languages,
mm-hmm.
I understand all of it now. So
Yeah.
now when I speak French, when I speak Spanish, or when I see any other Roman language, I, like you said, I analyze it in a way that actually I just use the roots, like the basic
Uh-huh.
theory,
Right.
and then I'm able to apply it and then layer it in such a complex way that I can improve my proficiency in the language.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. Like I said, it's been for me. This has been a treat. It's been great to connect with you, to learn more about you, and so I really want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule, because I know being a student, like, you have a lot on your plate, and there's other things that are
Indeed.
going on. So I really genuinely want to thank you so much for hanging out with me on this podcast, and hopefully I would love to do something in the future with you, like some sort of collaboration or discussion again.
Definitely.
I'd love to bring you back, if that's okay.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm definitely open for it. And I was thinking about it like I've definitely planned to make some episodes on my podcast about like education.
Hmm.
I would definitely have you on there. And
Yeah, I
also
would love to.
thank you so much for having me, Paximus. Like you don't know, like I've this is like I said, it's the first time I'm doing this whole live podcasting thing,
Hmm.
and I actually really am enjoying it. And like I love the interview, I love the questions, I love the discussions we've had,
Yeah.
and I'm actually looking forward to like just like having, I don't know, basic conversation with you. You seem like a
Yeah.
really cool dude.
Thank you so much. I likewise, I find it, it's very much mutual. I really appreciate just and I think I find your mind fascinating. I think it's wonderful. You have just such an intelligent and wonderful mind, and I love how you like to analyze and even take an inventory of yourself, because by taking an inventory of yourself, you're realizing, this is what I can do to make things better, or I can do to help me, to then
Hmm.
help other people. And I love that. I- if I may, that to me is
Yes,
a humble approach. That is a humble
thank
approach. It's
you
someone
very
who
much.
constantly wants to better themselves so that they can better others, and I find that wonderful. So thank you so much for being here. And for those of you who are watching this on the replay, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. And I think you guys know what time it is. So for those of you who are still, you may be catching this on the replay, I want to thank you so much. Whether it's the morning, evening, or somewhere in between, I'm really happy that you took some time out of your day to be here with us to have this conversation. Don't forget to check in the description. There's all the information you need about Noire every day. Noire every day. We have the YouTube where you can subscribe, the Discord, donations, but definitely please go subscribe to Noire every day on YouTube. You will not regret it. I know you will learn so much from her. And guys, this has been wonderful. Noire, you're awesome. I literally enjoyed this, thoroughly enjoyed this. But in the meantime, I need you guys to remember, be kind and rewind. Have a good day. Hadouken!